Just say where I noticed. I've noticed several times around Peterborough, not within city limits, the sign that says something like "Government, keep your hands off our land." And I didn't really know what it was about. And my first impression was, great. It is that natives are asserting their rights. You know, they're obviously trying to claim, underline their claims for restitution and land and justice. But that doesn't seem to be the case. It is about property rights.
Yeah,
very much so. And I'm not sure what these people are up to, but they are sort of freedom fighters. I don't want to be negative, because since they talk about revolution,
it's not our way to be negative either.
No, that's true. But since they talk about revolution, I would think violence is an accepted means. You can't have a revolution without breaking some eggs, as some revolutionary said. And so, you know, my concern is they might be terrorists, but that's just a concern, unfounded, and I don't certainly want to intimate any illegalities there.
No.
I'm sure these people are just taking advantage of their freedom of speech, and just like we like to...
What we would like to do.
Or academic freedom.
Yeah.
And so... But I guess you have a similar case even within urban Toronto of I don't know, are they freedom fighters or criminals? It's so hard these days to really make that distinction.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about the farmers around Peterborough is it's the freedom of speech and also their constitutional right to bear arms.
Oh,
that
of course.
That of course doesn't apply. But no, we had a problem in Toronto. I mean, another problem. It's a welcome distraction actually from the whole conflict with my neighbor over the pool. But we set aside some areas in Toronto a number of years back that are common. Sometimes we call them parks or parkettes, benches and such. And but we've had a problem of gangs taking them over and using them for illicit purposes. They occupy the park, or in front of my house, for example. They occupy the park. They deal drugs there. There's prostitution, and if you go up and confront them, they can be quite aggressive. They'll even threaten violence if you get in their way. They say the park belongs to them and they're not sharing it. And then they started marking the park with sort of gang colors and insignia and hanging footwear from things. It was all very symbolic, but clearly to signal that this was gang territory, and it was theirs. And their basic line was, you know, back off. This land belongs to us. And so we had a big meeting then with the cops, homeowners like myself, where we said we wanted to reclaim the public lands, even if the gangs think they own it, that they don't. And so we had meetings with the cops, and also I should say these gangs, they also, the way they travel, they have these fast cars that they use to drive between parks, and then inside the parks they have like Vespa motor scooters, their own little...
That they use inside the park?
That they zip across the park on faster than a bicycle. So so the cops did some sweeps, and you know, they arrested a whole whack of them, and now the cops go through and on their own bicycles and whatnot, and horses. We have, of course, cops now in Toronto. They'll go through there, and slowly the land is being returned to the public to use for what it was originally, you know, designated for. But the really upsetting thing was I finally managed to talk to one of these guys away from his gang. And I said, you know, where did you ever get this absurd idea that you could just take public land and use it for your own purposes, and threaten violence and claim public property as private. And he said that he learned it from his relatives that were living around Peterborough.
That's interesting.
Yeah, well, apparently this land they want the government to back off of around here. These are road allowances that is public property, and the idea now is to reclaim those and use those for bicycle paths, etc. But these white freedom fighters, white farmer, rural freedom fighters here, they want to claim that those things that they've been occupying as their own, and they threaten violence. You know, they threaten buckshot to people that come around and ask if they can put a lane through, and they put up their gang colors. Essentially, that's what those signs are. Back off government. That's gang. That's a gang insignia. So the only thing I can't understand then is, like in Toronto, when this happens, we just get the cops to go round these people up. I keep waiting to see a picture of a bunch of white Peterborough farmers in the back of a van, cuffed, you know, with their pants hanging down, because they take the belts away right away, you know. And I haven't seen those pictures, so I don't know whether it's that people in rural Ontario are less law and order oriented than we are in Toronto.
Well, that stands to reason.
It's
although my impression was always the opposite.
well, once again, it's clearly not the way it appears.
They pioneered this technique.
Yeah, they
Of
did.
intimidation and
Yeah, but there don't seem to be any negative consequences for them here. Whereas in Toronto, as I say, if a gang member tries to claim a public park as his own, and he's going to, you know, fight off, like back off government, you can expect the Toronto cops will come around, because that's not.
well,
what
the
it's
difference
doing.
must be that one group are honorable citizens and property owners.
Well, maybe.
who are the original
Yeah.
owners of the land, and the others are, you know, criminal elements that are trying to undermine our society by selling drugs to our kids. I mean, there must be a difference there. The one are feeding
Yeah.
us, the others are poisoning us,
Yeah.
and that must be related somehow.
But the road allowances that they've claimed now for their own property here, those are public. It's like that's theft. Like they're stealing from the public purse, these guys. And just the fact that they don't remember that what they've been treating as their own land is in fact belongs to someone else doesn't change the fact that it does. I mean,
But that seems to be a long-standing tradition in Canadian history.
I guess
I mean, it's not the first
occupation.
time
No.
that.
You're going to try and bring my pool into it, aren't you? But
Well, the pool is one of the examples, but I mean you're not a pioneer. I hate to say, in occupation. I mean, don't the Aboriginals claim some sort of a original right to the land that seemed a little
yeah.
unreasonable in some respects. And
Yeah.
that's basically what the landowners are saying. Look, what you're saying, there is this original right, but
Yeah.
if we took all of these original rights seriously,
That's right.
we could shut down the whole operation here called Canada. And so,
Well, so what you're saying is that for these white landowners around Peterborough, the Canadian public and the native community are really on the same level. Neither of them have rights of reclamation.
I would say so.
Yeah, so that at least helps clarify.
I mean, the public, what's the public?
Yeah.
It's just a fiction.
Yeah.
The people that keep things moving in this country is not the public.
No.
Not Joe Public, but it's farmers, property owners, entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
companies. That's where the initiative comes from.
Yeah.
Banks, not to forget banks
Right.
and other institutions. That's. I mean, it's not to say that there's never been an injustice.
Right.
But the big picture, I think,
Yeah.
is important to keep in mind, and
Yeah.
the big picture doesn't really speak well for the public. I mean, the people who advocate for the public, look at them more closely. I think they are often socialists,
Yeah.
communists,
Oh, yeah.
anarchists.
Yeah.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
I think that sums it up.
So that's, yeah. And there's a difference, too, because as I said, these guys in Toronto, these gangs, they drive cars and those Vespas, whereas out here it's pickups and skidoos.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fairly different.
Yeah.